I really appreciate it, mate. John Conolly, singer-guitarist for Projected, as well as guitarist for one of the world's best and most respected and one of my all-time favourite bands, Sevendust. On behalf of Crank and myself, Jai, that Aussie metal guy, mate, I really appreciate you making the time to do this for me, eh?
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, first off, man, I'd really like to know how you first got into playing guitar.
By accident. I was actually a drummer. I played drums most of my whole life, and it was kind of one of those things where even though I was an active drummer in a band, it was, it was kind of out of necessity that, I wanted to get into songwriting. And it's very difficult to sit down on a set of drums and kind of translate a thought. So, learning a bar chord on our guitar player's guitar, when he let me borrow a guitar, I'd learn a bar chord and just kind of move it around the neck. And, I had a decent understanding of note relationship and some scales and a little bit of theory from percussion background and things that I'd studied in school. But, I think the most important thing for me as a player was I realized that I wanted to be a songwriter. It was just one of those goals. It was like, I didn't care if I wrote 100 songs or I wrote one song. I just wanted to write one really good song. And Black was the first one that I wrote. So people still ask for that one. I don't know if it's the best song that I've ever written, but it's definitely the one that has stuck around the longest. But yeah, for me, it was kind of just the nature of actually finding an instrument that I could grab quickly and I could hammer something out. I always approached, the guitar from a very percussive point of view, being an ex-drummer. And it was just something I always loved to do, as much as I still love playing drums and I really, really enjoy playing the guitar. I think for me, the most important thing about the instrument is how you can sit down and you can actually create something, that we would take in the studio and put on a record, a song, an idea, even if it's just a verse or a bridge or a chorus or whatever. It was a tool, and it was a really, really effective tool because once I understood how it worked, it wasn't like the focus wasn't really to become a good guitar player. The focus was always to become a good songwriter. And then, as I got a little bit better at it over the years, I figured, all right, I better learn a few things on the instrument in case I ever have to play a guitar solo or, want to kind of broaden the horizons and whatever. But it's interesting because I think the better that you get at playing the instrument, sometimes it can get in the way of writing a good song. And sometimes my best songs are those days where I purposely go, okay, don't warm up. Don't get the fingers loose. Don't get in the shred mode, stay out of that mode, and keep it simple and keep it basic, and then you work structurally from there. So for me, it was always about the song.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really cool to hear that, eh? So it's always been about the song first and the songwriting, then kind of structure everything around that, eh? Or just building a good song first and
absolutely,
then going from there.
100%.
Yep. When you were first starting...
there's always a spot for, solos and things like that, and there's always a spot for layers and getting, really, really getting out there creatively. But, at the core of it, it's just about those simple three chords and the truth. You two said it best. It's like some of the best songs are those ones where you really aren't focused on the physical nature of playing. You look at a band like the Beatles, arguably one of the, greatest bands ever. And it's not to say that they weren't great players, but they weren't shredders, they weren't doing acrobatics on their instrument. They were just focused on really, writing really, really good songs. And I think that's where everybody in Sevendust kind of started from, aside from the fact that we've got some great players in the band, and some great vocalists, ideally it's all about the song. And the most important thing with all of us is the song.
And do you put that, what you're saying there, the focus on the song first, do you put that down to a lot of the longevity that Sevendust has had over the years and the respect you guys have had with your fans through all your albums and everything you've brought out?
I think so. I think it's one of those things, especially once we started to When we first started the band, we kind of didn't know what kind of a band we were. I mean, we got called everything from nu metal to progressive to, rap rock to, well, you got a black guy, so he must be rap rock. It's like, yeah, he doesn't really rap. He's more of a gospel, soulful guy.
Yeah.
So we were more of like a soul metal thing. But I think once we actually did Angel Sun and we kind of explored the acoustic avenue of really stripping it down, and our fans accepted it, there's always that moment in time where you go, all right, can Slayer do this? Probably not. But we were lucky enough to have Lejeune be that type of a singer where our fans got it, and they really adapted to it. So having that gear available at any given point in time has really kind of opened up the songwriting as well, because when you're playing acoustic, it's not about shredding. It's not about solos. It's not about the me thing. It's more about really getting to the core of what it is, which is the song. And I think that's one of the things that's probably stood the test of time is, we may not love them as much as our fans do, but when our fans talk about what those songs mean to them.
Yep. I'm one of those fans.
It means a lot.
It does.
Yeah, it definitely means a lot to hear it,
Angel Sun for me, I when that come out, I was going through a pretty rough trot as myself. I just lost someone pretty close to me, my brother, and when that song come out, I know he's ripped that for Lynn Straight, but I know a lot of your fans have got a lot of meaning and a lot of strength out of that song, and kind of like a healing as well.
Of course, yeah.
Unreal.
But that's the beauty of music, is it's amazing what it does for you personally when you're on the spot. I've got 5 songs that are sitting on my desktop right now that nobody on earth has heard but me, and I know how they make me feel. But the coolest thing is when you actually turn them over to not only the rest of the guys in the band, but once you start to play them for management and the label, and then your fans, and you realize how it affects and how all those people react to those songs. It's the coolest thing in the world, because you get to have the moment by yourself, which is very, very introspective, and then you get to actually, open it up, and then to see it and to hear it. I mean, 20 years after the fact, to have people that still talk about those songs, 20 years later, we're kind of looking forward, and we've got so many songs that sometimes we don't really focus on the songs like we did as much, as we did when those songs were brand new. But it's so cool when you play a song or someone comes up to you and they have the song lyrics tattooed on their arm, or the stories about what it meant for them to get through a tough time, like your situation. I mean, it's always cool, and that's the coolest thing about music, is the fact that you may get tired of it as the songwriter, but your fans never get tired of that stuff. Or if they do, there's so many different songs in the catalog that they can lean on or go to.
Exactly.
And, that's the coolest thing about being a songwriter, is actually having that come back to you, having all those stories and how it means to other people.
Cool, man. Your last album, All I See Was War, was unreal, man. That was a really great album, as with all your albums. How did you approach the songwriting and song creation with that album?
We went overboard. We probably were more prepared for that record than any other record ever. I remember Elvis Pasquette he did that record with us, and I'd worked with him on the first Projected record. He mixed that record, so we knew each other pretty well. And I remember when we started putting stuff into the folder on Dropbox, I hit him up and I said, just so you know, there's going to be a lot of ideas in there. And I had no idea how many ideas there were. I just knew that I had a pile and Clint had a pile. And I remember he hit me up and he was like, dude, there's like 57 demos in here. And I said, what? He goes, 57. And I went, all right, we should probably stop. And he was like, well, I don't know what you guys are trying to do here. He goes, but holy crap. He goes, we're going to have to cut out some really, really good songs. And I was like, well, I guess that's a good spot to be in. So it was, for sure. But, we kind of went over the top. We had so much downtime before that record. And, it had been a minute since we'd worked with an outside producer. We'd self-produced a handful of the records. I think Johnny K was probably the last time, and that record was, 2009, 2010 by the time it came out. So it was, that was about 8 years since we'd worked with a producer. And you always want to throw as many ideas as possible. You know, even when you think that you got the record, that's usually when you should throw another 2 or 3 ideas just to see what happens. Because when you're relaxed and you think that you got it and you're not under pressure, sometimes that's when the best songs come. So we bombarded poor Elvis, man. I remember he had his notebook. The notes were incredible. He was like, dude, man. He was like, it took me 4 or 5 days just to organize it and to go through it all. He was like, you guys are out of your mind.
It's a great album.
Like, all right, well,
it's a really great album.
Yeah,
really
so we were hyper prepared from a songwriting point of view for sure.
Okay. These guys are about to hit Aussie shores next week. You're starting first with a show over in Auckland, New Zealand on Saturday. Then you're over here starting with Brisbane, I think, and then you're finishing up in Perth Saturday week. Do you enjoy getting down here and playing Aussie crowds?
Right. We do. We absolutely love it. It's a win-win for us because we love jamming and we love to visit Australia and New Zealand, and we never get a chance to do it as often as we'd like to. So anytime that we do see it come up on the schedule, it's, you know, we always ask, hey, man, can you give us like an extra 2 or 3 days while we're there just so that we can kind of take some of it in, you know. Sometimes you get there and it's just so busy that you're flying every day. So there's no buses. You know, here in the States, we're on a bus, but over there it's in and out of hotels to the airport, hotel to the airport, back and forth. And a couple of the trips that we had over there, they went by so quickly. We were like, we just didn't get a chance to enjoy it. You know, sometimes you just want to take a day and kind of soak it in.
Do a little
but
bit of
for us, it's always a pleasure to get to Australia.
What can we expect down on these run of shows down under, mate?
Well, being that we haven't been there in a minute, very, very loud crowds, and the set list is going to be all over the map. We've kind of had a bunch of different things going on. There's a couple things in the works for the end of the album cycle that have us looking into some of the deeper cuts, and we just did the 20th anniversary of the Home album in Atlanta. So that whole record we did in its entirety. So all those songs are fair game. And the 2 shows we did that in Atlanta, right before we did the Home show, we did some deeper cuts. So the set list is kind of wide open right now. I'm not sure what we're going to be playing there, but we're probably going to be playing some stuff that a lot of people are not expecting to hear just because they're sort of fresh. And, you know, fresh meaning they're 17 years old, but we haven't played them in a minute.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll catch us in Adelaide.
Instead of just doing the usual suspects, we're definitely going to be doing some deep cuts for sure.
That's good. I'm looking forward to it. Before we go, what would be the one track that you really love playing live, mate, and why?
Wow, that's a tough one. You know, as much as Black gets a lot of, you know, we give it a lot of crap just because we probably played that song more than any other song in our career, in our catalog. It's amazing how much our fans still love that song.